How can I go beyond just feeling more grateful and actually being a more grateful person? Well, in the book I wrote, Thanks, there's a whole chapter devoted to practices, evidence-based practices. And we need these because it doesn't come easily or naturally. And so it is with me. I find that despite the fact I've been studying this for 11 years and know all about it, know about gratitude, don't always know gratitude in a more personal way. And I find I have to put these into practice, consciously think about ways to become grateful. In fact, my wife says, how is it that you're supposed to be this huge expert on gratitude? You're like the least grateful person I know. That's what she says. And that's why I don't bring her to these talks. You know, she'd say, who was that up there talking? I don't understand. I don't recognize him. But she has a point because, again, it's easy to lapse into the negativity mindset. It just seems to be so much easier or natural or whatever. Well, there's some specific guidelines. I don't have time to get into all of them, but not surprisingly, one of the first ones is keeping the gratitude journal. I think any practice that consciously, intentionally calls focus our attention on developing more grateful thinking, eliminating ungrateful thoughts, feelings of I deserve this, or feelings of perceptions of boredom, apathy, versus seeing things as new, as different, as exciting. Deciding to yourself, I don't need to be grateful right now, but maybe I'll give it a try. It can't harm me, and maybe it'll help me, right? Even under difficult circumstances, and making these decisions, developing reasons and evidence for becoming more grateful, not because you just think it'll make you happier, but in fact is a better way to experience life. And I do believe that people who live a life of pervasive thankfulness really do experience life differently than people who cheat themselves out of life by not feeling grateful. Practicing counting blessings, finding a time to do it on a regular basis, right? Maybe the morning, maybe the evening. You may not have to write it on paper. Some people find it's effective to translate their thoughts into language, put them down. Others just like to reflect on it mentally. What else do we have there? Using visual reminders or cues, particularly working with children. We find that children are not abstract thinkers like adults are, and they need concrete visual reminders, cues. Here's a picture of a lady down there. Can you see what the jars? She's in British Columbia, Vancouver. Her family has developed this practice of putting money in jars, and they label each jar abundance or blessings or gratitude. And when the jar is full, all their spare change, you come home at the end of the night, empty your pockets, goes in there, and then they give it to some needy person or a good cause within their community when it's full. And it teaches children, first of all, about the importance of gratitude, but then that gratitude also does something. It impels people to give forward in some measure to which they themselves have received. Or gratitude bracelets, like you see up there, that people wear. Visual reminders, something that will help them overcome some of those obstacles to gratitude, like busyness and distractions, forgetfulness, and so on. I think gratitude is really powerful. It's nice. It certainly feels good. It makes us happier. It's nice to focus on things we're grateful for. We feel connected to others, and those are all wonderful things. But if it doesn't do anything, if it doesn't lead to any outward action, I'm not so sure that it becomes the parent of all the motives or the greatest of the virtues, the key that opens all doors, and so on, unless it impels and compels people to give back. And it seems to. From more recent research, we're finding that when people are grateful, they're motivated to become more outgoing, compassionate, altruistic, generous. William Damon at Stanford, Ann Colby, his wife, some years ago wrote this book on moral exemplars, people who've committed their lives to giving back, to volunteerism, to altruism, and so on, usually at some personal cost to themselves. Talk about the fact that these exemplars see gratitude as the reason why they give. They become grateful for giving to others, service to others, the opportunity to serve. Mother Teresa talked about how grateful she was to the people she was helping, the sick and dying in the slums of Calcutta, because it enabled her to grow and deepen her spirituality. And that's a very different way of thinking about gratitude. Out of the box, gratitude for what we give as opposed to what we receive can be a very powerful way, I think, of cultivating a sense of gratitude. We can become grateful to institutions, not just this interpersonal one-on-one giving or a more general cosmic gratitude or a religious gratitude in a theological system. But we can become grateful to our workplaces, to our institutions, and so forth. That's another level of gratitude that really expands our notion of what gratitude is and how it can be expressed and experienced in people's lives.